Welcome to the Scrum Feed, where Paul Dalligan and I pull apart what's happening in the NRL and NRLW. And to kick off this week's show, Paul, Dean Young gets a 2-year deal to coach the Dragons through to the end of 2028.
Yes, it's a great win for the club. I grew up not far from that area. I remember watching his father, Craig Young, play. That was back in the days when you had to have a real job, Professor, not that playing rugby league isn't a full-time profession, but his father was a legend of the club, and so was Dean. So I think they've gone with the man with the runs on the board and enough of the red spirit there coursing through his veins to get the gig.
Well, plenty of the red spirit there, Paul. 200-game player, played in the last St George Premiership in 2010. His coaching pedigree involved with the New South Wales State of Origin, which probably helps.
It does. And also, too, I think that it would have been harsh to judge him given there's 3 fine players on the way in Drinkwater, Keon Kalamatangi and Luke Metcalf. So I think with those 3 players, it's only fair to give him a chance with that, given what he's shown with the Dragons. They're clearly putting in for him. I think Clint Gutherson put it best. He yelled across the full car park saying, just give the man the job. So when you've got a guy who's been around that long, shouting support across a car park, I don't think you can invent that type of support you need and buy-in from the players.
And definitely on the Scrum Feed, I went back and had a look at a couple of our previous shows. We've said that St George has improved since he's been appointed as interim coach.
They have, and I had a sneaky look at next year's odds. Not that we put much stock in those, but $67 for the Dragons. So that I think on its own is an improvement and reflects the players arriving, because you would have got $200 on them winning this year, if not more. So it's a minor improvement, but there's certainly going to be a top 8 threat next year with that roster. And a bit more stability in the coaching.
Can we say that after 2 years, Paul, the Jerome Luai experiment at the West Tigers has been a failure?
Failure is a strong word. I think he turned them into a respectable club there for a while. And then I'm not sure what derailed them, or a combination of both, the injuries and the signing for Papua New Guinea. It was interesting that the club was more than happy to allow him to chase that money tax-free, which is generational wealth, I've heard it described as. Happy with that. And then as the wheels fell off the club, haven't won many games since then, suddenly down he goes. So whether or not they were truly happy with Papua New Guinea, they probably would have been as long as he kept the club winning, but he wasn't able to do that. But lots of injuries at the Tigers. It's been a bit of a mess there this year on the injury front.
So can you perhaps explain to Eels fans the reason for getting him as a rental for 1 year before he goes to PNG? It just seems like a waste of money to me.
Yeah, well, it's a tricky one. And I think the Tigers fans wouldn't be too happy with paying $500,000 towards his 1.2. The Eels are paying $700,000, which is good money in anyone's language. But for a top-line playmaker, that's under. So arguably they're getting a deal. But what happens after next year? He works well with Mitchell Moses. They've won an Origin together. So that obviously is the plan. I think the biggest drive would have been Jason Riles, because he's coming up towards the end of his deal. If he doesn't start getting wins soon, he's going to be on the chopping block. So he would have been all for it. And I don't blame him, because the youngsters they've got there aren't ready yet. So that's the driver, I'd say, is that proven combination of Origin. 700 instead of what you'd pay for a top line half, about $1 million a year, especially with the new deal coming. And also the coach wants wins, as do the fans. So that's the explanation I could give. That's all I could really do.
State of refereeing, Paul. I watched a number of games on the weekend and the commentators were up in arms about forward passes, offsides not being paid, and certainly some of the bunker decisions had me scratching my head.
It is a shame that we're talking more about the refereeing sometimes than the games themselves. There was a pass in that Warriors game Joe Montana would have been proud of in his prime. So I don't know how they got that wrong, and the touchdown was right there. So I don't know how they missed that as a forward pass. The Origin, of course, affected by refereeing. I'm talking more about the Bostock knock-on than the send-off. It's not ideal, and particularly with $5 billion on the way, you think some could be put into that FIFA-style technology where they can pick up if a bloke's toenails in front of the opponent, let alone the sort of things we're seeing with the NRL. So hopefully there might be some investment in some technology with this new deal.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed, Paul. Okay, our red line teams, one of my favourite parts of the program, 7 matches to play. My red line's through the Dragons, the Titans, the Eels, the West Tigers and the Broncos.
Yes, Broncos ironically could sneak in. Raiders showed some fight. Yeah, I agree with you there. I think unfortunately the Storm are gone as well now that Hughes and Munster are out. So you can put the line through the Storm, sadly, in Craig Bellamy. Let's hope it's not his final year. And given the turbo issues, I think Manly will plummet out of the 8 as well. We're getting close. And apologies to Schooner, but there's a pink pen in my hand on Manly at the moment as well, unless they can turn things around.
Well, if
your dogs are gone as well. You get put your pen through them. Professor, I'm not sure if you mentioned them earlier, but I think they're gone.
4 teams, Raiders, Storm, Bulldogs, Sea Eagles, who are outside the 8, certainly need to put some consistency together in their matches, though, if they're going to try and make it.
They do, and I haven't seen enough from any of those teams to challenge. And we're talking here about teams that can win it. I just can't see anyone winning it outside of the top 7 at the moment. Possibly the Cowboys if they can string everything together with Dearden there. But I think the winner will come from the top 7 at the moment.
Also got the red pen out for NRLW, even though we're only 3 rounds into an 11-round season, Paul. My red pen's already through the Cowboys, the Sharks and the Eels, who've all started 0 and 3.
Get it through all of them, Professor. I'll say it now, except for there's 2 teams that are bolting ahead, the Broncos and the Roosters. I think the Knights possibly could get there and the Warriors. That's all the teams that could win it. And I'm happy to stand by that, those 4 teams.
A great segue into our review of round 3 in the NRLW pool. The match of the round, Raiders 18, the Roosters 22. 4 tries apiece. The Raiders, though, horrors in the kicking department, 0 from 4. They only needed to get 3 of them to get across the line.
And it would have been a big win too against the Roosters. So very unfortunate to see there. So there'll be a bit of practice put in this week in the nation's capital.
Proud to report my Bulldogs got on the scoreboard, Paul. Beat the Sharks 24-18. The Sharks, who last year played havoc, have started 0-3.
Yeah, disappointing for the Sharks. I was expecting more from them this year, but a good win for your Dogs there, Professor. Entertaining game, that one.
A number of unfortunate scores, Paul. Warriors 42, Cowboys 4, Knights 38, Dragons 0. And in one game, the Titans 50, Eels 12. The Titans outgained the Eels by 1,000 metres, if you can believe that.
Yeah, it's mirroring, unfortunately, the men's game when you're getting these one-sided scores and a lot to do with the rule changes as well. But it's clear there's a big disparity there, which isn't great to see in the women's game.
The men's round 20 review, Paul. Atrocious conditions started the round for the Panthers-Broncos game. Panthers 12, Broncos 14. There were 33 tackle breaks by the Broncos. That's a very un-Panthers-like statistic.
Oh, it is, and it's some worrying signs for the Panthers. I wouldn't have them as certainties to win this year, as some do, but what a win from the Broncos. Better give them credit. Ran out at about $5 odds, I think they did. So that was an amazing effort to keep their season alive. And I think what's pretty clear for Michael Maguire is just give the ball to Reese Walsh, and that would be a large part of the way they play from here. Don't care what numbers on his back. The way he played was unbelievable. One of the better games of the year in those conditions from Reese Walsh. So watch for him. If it was the AFL, it'd be 3 votes for Reese Walsh. I'd say most games in from here.
Mirror game for the women's Raiders-Roosters game, Paul. The Sharks 20, the Knights 18. The Knights put across 4 tries to 3, but 1 from 4 in the conversions. That really let them down.
Yeah, big win for the Sharks, and they're building towards a top 4 finish. So they could do a lot from there. They could go deep in this comp. Knights still playing very well there, and it was an unlucky loss for them. Toss a coin job, that one.
Roosters 14, Storm 6. That's the end for the Storm for the season, not only from the result, but Will Warbrick has played his last game for the Storm, rupturing an Achilles tendon.
Yeah, it's very sad to see. No one likes to see that on his day, one of the better wingers I've ever seen. And it's very sad to see how his career ended, but to mirror the World Cup final this morning with Lionel Messi, it's not often you go out on your own terms in sport. And unfortunately for Will Warbrick, that's the way his stalled career ended. Very sad.
Raiders 34, Rabbitohs 24. What's happened to your Rabbitohs, Paul?
They let them get out to way too big a lead there, Canberra, and when they're at home, they get up a lead like that. They're very hard to pin back. They came home, the Rabbits, but they couldn't run them down, and that kept the Raiders' season alive, barely.
Hasn't helped the Raiders. Hudson Young out for the rest of the season with an Achilles injury as well.
No, that's why I said I think barely alive, but some spirit there, and just a worry for the Rabbits who seem to be fading at the wrong time.
Return of form for my Bulldogs, Paul. Beat the Wests Tigers 32-0. What can we say about that one?
Well, you've got to say that the Luai effect certainly didn't galvanise the team. It just has literally put a bomb in the camp, and Dogs were good, but the Tigers were woeful. Just a terrible effort. And to score 0 in this day and age, when we're seeing such big scores put up, it's just diabolical. And the sooner, unfortunately, Jerome goes, the better.
Gooner would have lost a lot of his hair pulling it out, watching the Sea Eagles go down to the Titans, 38-32. I watched that game, Paul. The Sea Eagles had every opportunity in the last 20 minutes and just muffed time after time.
And also, in worse news for them, they lost Tom Drabojevic yet again to another hamstring injury. So that's why I think they're unfortunately going to slide out of stay out of the 8, because that was a bad loss. There are some promising signs at the Titans, if you want to focus on the positives there. Halfback Zane Harrison is playing like a 10-year veteran, not a rookie. And it is good to see a Titans team performing on their day. They're exceptionally creative and great to watch, but Manly really should have won that game. Disappointing from them.
Let's look at a round 4 preview for the NRLW, Paul. Starting off Saturday afternoon at 12:40 p.m. The Raiders, who are 5th, taking on the Sharks 10th. As I said before, the Sharks haven't won a game. The Raiders 2-1 at Bruce Stadium. I think they should get across the line.
Yeah, they should be good there. And a chilly Saturday afternoon in Canberra, I'd say they're a big chance.
It'll be a big reversal to the head-to-head too, Paul, because the Sharks have won all 3 games.
Yeah, there's just something wrong there this year. And I think the Raiders will be too strong at home.
3:15 game on Saturday. Acor, a curtain raiser to the men's fixture. Bulldogs 9th, taking on the Dragons 8th. Both teams have won 1 game. Head-to-head, the Dragons have won the only game between the two, 18-14. Who'll win this one?
I think it's toss a coin stuff, but the form of your dog should carry through, I think, and they should get the cookies, the chubbies even.
At 5:15 p.m, we've got the Cowboys in Townsville playing the Titans. Titans might be a team that could go a fair distance into the finals this season, Paul. They've won 2 from 3. The Cowboys very disappointing at 0-3.
Well, that might be why the Titans are very short odds to win this one, and I think that they should win, and we've been hoping for how many years, Professor, for a team from the Gold Coast to be a success. So this perhaps could be the chance that Gold Coast Women's could break the drought, if we will.
Sunday at midday, the 11th placed Eels, without a win so far, play the 6th place Warriors, who've already won 2 games, and they're playing at Eric Tweedale Stadium, if you don't mind.
I can't tell you where that is, Professor, but I'll take your word for it, wherever you say. I think the Warriors are on good form and should get up wherever the Eric Tweedale Stadium is.
In Parramatta, Paul.
Okay.
All right, let's move on. 1:45 p.m. game, match of the round, Paul. Top place Broncos, who haven't lost yet, playing the Knights, who are 3rd, who've won 2 and lost 1. Head-to-head, very even. The Broncos have won 4, the Knights have won 3. Last time, Broncos won 30-6. I don't think it'll be that big a blowout, but I think the Broncos at home should do well.
Yeah, I think the Broncos at home will be too strong. They're playing well this year. It looks like only them or the Roosters can win it from what we're seeing, but you never know in this crazy game we love.
Final game of the round at 6:15 p.m. on Sunday, Paul. The 7th place West Tigers, who've won 2, playing the 2nd place Roosters, who are 3-0. They're playing at Leichhardt Oval, the home of the West Tigers. Head-to-head, the Roosters have won all 3 games between these 2 teams.
Yeah, I think the Roosters should be too strong. And as I said, it's looking like a Broncos-Roosters grand final. But be an entertaining match there at Leichhardt. Yeah, the girls will throw it around. But I just think there's too much star quality there about the Roosters to get an upset for the Tigers. So I think Roosters will win that one.
NRL round 21 starts Thursday night at 7:50 p.m. at CommBank Stadium. The 2 home tenants, Paul, because Panthers have been playing their home games there. Eels 15th, playing the Panthers, who are on top. Panthers by a mile, I would have thought.
I think the Panthers should win. The Eels will be respectable, I'd say, at home, given that Thursday night slot. You got a lot of people watching, but local derby as well. But the Panthers will be smarting after their very surprising loss last week to the Broncos. So the Panthers should win.
Friday night's first game, Paul. The Knights playing at home in 6th against the Roosters, who are 3rd. Roosters have won 4 out of their last 5.
Yeah, I saw that, but I think that the Knights might get this in an upset. I think they're primed for this game. They'll be all set at home. I mean, massive crowd there. They'd already be lining up at Newcastle. So I'm going for the Knights with the home ground advantage just to cause a boil over.
The nightcap game on Friday night at 8 p.m, Paul. Your Rabbitohs playing the Storm, the injury-ravaged Storm at Acor. Both teams have won 3 out of their last 5, although I think the Storm might go down with this one, given the depleted ranks that they've got.
Yeah, I think we lost about 20 in a row, the Rabbits to the Storm at one stage. It was the biggest drought in Australian sports history, but that tide seems to have turned now, and I think the Rabbits should win this one, get their season back on track.
First game on Super Saturday, Paul. The Raiders, the rejuvenated Raiders, playing the Wests Tigers in Canberra. It'll be cold, we know that for sure. I think the Raiders might get home, take a step towards maybe making the 8.
I think they will. They need to keep their season alive. It just seems drama after the other for Tigers. I can't see them getting up there with the injuries and Luai dramas. The Raiders should win that quite easily.
5:30 p.m. Saturday game. My Bulldogs, who are 10th, against the Warriors, who are 2nd. Any chance of an upset here, Paul?
Possibly. I think you need to keep that season alive. I'll wait to see the final tease, but I'm leaning towards the Warriors, unfortunately. They seem to be a very polished team all across the park, the Warriors, with a bit more depth than the Dogs have. So I'm leaning towards the Warriors.
Bulldogs won 4 from the last 5.
They have, and it's very impressive. I just think that well-rounded nature of the Warriors team will get them over the line. I hate to go against you, Professor.
Nightcap game on Super Saturday, 7:35 p.m. The Cowboys 8th against the Broncos 13th. A battle for Queensland up in Townsville. Last time they met, the Cowboys won 35-31. That was back in April. Can they do it again on Saturday night?
I think with Tom Dearden returning, they can. And I think with that, it'll snuff out the Broncos' chances. I think that they'll be a bit tired after last week's game. The Broncos, that's arguably their grand final, I think. So, as we know, there's often a slump in form once you've got yourself up for a game like that. And the Cowboys at home, I think, will just be too strong, particularly if Dearden's playing there.
What better than a Sunday 2 p.m. game at Coggera, Paul? The Dragons 17th against the Titans 16th. Last time they met, the Titans won 22-14. With the confirmation of the coach, I think the Dragons might take this one home at Coggera.
I think they will, and there'll be a big crowd there and cheering the appointment of the coach, the hero. And I think with the form they're in, the Dragons will just get them. But the Titans are pretty explosive. They need to score some points, the Dragons. So I'm going the Dragons on the back of the Dean Young announcement.
No Tommy Turbo for the Sea Eagles when they take on the Sharks at Brookvale on Sunday at 4:05 p.m. Anything there for Schooner to be happy about?
No, I think the Sharks are top 4 bound. And as I said, unfortunately, the Seagulls are sliding. They'll fire up at home, but I just think the Sharks will hit them too hard and just be too strong. There's some issues there at Manly after their initial Ball surge. I don't want to compare it to baseball, but it's starting to fade a bit away for Manly at this stage. Sharks are rising.
Any giraffe guarantee match for this round, Paul?
Not this week, no. I can't call any of these with great certainty. I'm looking through them now, and I don't like to do the short favourites, as you know, so next week, I promise you one.
All right, Paul, that's all from the Scrum Feed for this week. So until next week.
That's life. No, sorry, that was for Darren Interesting piece, but keep reading that Scrum, Professor.